God bless you. And again, welcome to another time of sharing. This is Apostle Dr. Sylvester Paul Brinson III, the president, founder, and presenter of this show, the Brinson Institute. And so we're glad to come into your homes every week, this same time, on this same station, this same venue, to share with you what God is doing in our lives and challenge you. We like to take the time out to thank all of you that have continued to make contact with us, those of you that have been watching our show and want to just give us a shout out. You see the number on the bottom of the screen. Pick up your telephone, give us a call at 1-773-616-1951. If you're interested more in our programs and what God is doing in our ministry, do find us on the web, the www.thebrinsoninstitute.com. We'll be so glad to hear from you and continue to bless. If you'd like to make a donation, go to our website, to our donation page, and you can enter a seed gift on our PayPal account. We thank God for you. I have been just sharing, and as we are nearing the end of the season, thinking about the season. And I don't know what time and when this show is you're watching and it comes, but I want you to take some time out today and begin to think about time and seasons. Time, seasons, and what you do in your time. What do you do with your time? What's happening in your time? What happens in your seasons? What is purpose and destiny for you? How do you see God talking to you and sharing with you as you work daily in ministry? Some of us, we're in ministry. I've talked to pastors and listened to pastors, and they put in their time and they put in their season. And some are excited and look forward, and others are frustrated and depressed and full of anxiety. A lot of pastors and ministers, over 1,000 leave the pulpit and ministry every month. So we need to begin to take a look at our time and our season. And so what I wanted to do was go back to a favorite scripture of mine, and the scripture that most of the time we use around when we have our funerals and we think about reflection, and that's the book of Ecclesiastes. And reading from Ecclesiastes chapter 3, I want to read this verse first. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. So for every purpose, there's a time. There's a time to every purpose. So when we begin to look at purpose and destiny and take a look at what God is calling us to be and to become, as we look at purpose and destiny, the question is, what time are we in? We all have purpose. There's a time for purpose. So what time in our purpose, and what is timing that we should be doing what as it relates to our purpose and our destiny? And then within that time frame, there are seasons. So God has put into eternity seasons and times and timings. And so what I want you to do is you share on this presentation today, I want you to begin to think with me and ask yourself the question, number one, what is my purpose? And based upon my purpose, what are the time frames within my purpose that I should be at? What are the markings of what I'm supposed to be doing right now, and what are the times? And then within the times, then what are the seasons? What season I am? Do you know that once you define and understand what season you are in, then you have to ask the question, if I'm in the season, what season I'm in, then what time in that season ought I be doing what? And what are the time frames and the hallmarks of which I can identify what I'm accomplishing now, because I'm at a certain time. There are certain times that I'm supposed to do things within certain seasons. So what time, based upon my everyday time, but what season am I in as I look at life and as I look at my coming and going? One of the things, as I looked at this chapter and began to read further on down, it talks about sometimes we have this question is, what profit had he that worketh in that wherein he labored? Sometimes we ask ourselves the question, I've been working at this ministry, or I've been working on the thing, I've been working on this work. What profit am I getting out of it? It's very frustrating for you to work on something, and there is no fruit. or there's some fruit, you're not making a profit. You're not being blessed by it. It's just work. But it has to be sometimes, and you need to have some feelings about some things that in the midst of what I do, in the midst of the time I put in and the effort I put in, there has to be a reason. I must see some residual. I must see a profit. And when I don't see a profit, why? It's frustrating. Now, one of the things that's important for us to keep us on track is to know that when we work in God's will, then there should be some sense that God is working all things out. He's working all things. And we know that all things work together for the good to them that love the Lord, to them that are the called to his purpose. Now look at the text. When we look at the text, it begins to talk about in verse 11 that he hath made everything beautiful in his time. Also, he has set the world in their heart so that no man can find out the work that God maketh from the beginning to the end. That would be frustrating. That would be very frustrating if everything you started, you knew how it was going to end. Isn't that something? You can't know that. God's not going to let you know that. He's going to put it in. He's going to give you process. You're going to work according to his will. You're going to work with purpose, but he's going to let you have some discovery in the process. He's not going to put you in something that you know all about it all the way to the end. And sometimes the frustration for us is that we're always trying to find out the end of a thing. Well, how is this going to end before we get in it? And sometimes our fear has a way of wanting to see the whole picture before we even begin part of the picture. Before we begin the part or into a journey of beginning, we want to know the outcome. Well, according to the writer, that's not how God planned it. You don't know the outcome. You discover the outcome. The outcome is something that evolves, but you got to get in it and get started. Now, one of the things that the writer here that I like as I begin to read Ecclesiastes and further on down, after we get past, there's a time to be born, there's a time to die, and the 14 juxtapositions in the text, I read across this. He said, I know, verse 12, I know that there is no good in them, but for a man to rejoice and to do good in his life. One of the challenges is for us, and who we work with, who we around, where we go, is to enjoy our life. Enjoy our life. The question that I have for you today is, are you enjoying your life? What are you doing? What is your ministry? What is your vocation? You come and go. You're laboring. You're putting in time. Are you enjoying your life? Or it's just a duty? Life is just a duty? Well, the writer says, no. That's vain. That's vexation. That's vexation of spirit. When you work, and you don't enjoy what you do. So some of us need to evaluate what we do, how we do it, what is the time frame of how much we do within a given time, and then what seasons are we at? Well, we just not add it, never get a chance to stop, pause, reflect, reevaluate, disengage to re-engage. We never get a chance to go through those processes because we just add it all the time. No, we got to pause now and take a look at, am I enjoying this? Is this something I'm getting a profit out of, or do I feel duty bound? That's why some people are angry at people, places, and things that come in their life as a result of assignment purposes. And when you're doing ministry or you're working in the world or you're doing this, based upon the kind of people that come in your life, if you're not clear, you'll get frustrated. You'll have you'll have issues with them and the circumstance and the situations. And you walk around angry and frustrated. How many people are like that? And because of that, continual means then you start having issues in your mind. And you're not whole and well because there's some parts of you that are hurting, are aching, that are frustrated, or been traumatized by the hustle and bustle of ongoing life as you see it. So the writer said, no. He said, verse 13, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is a gift from God. To be able to do what you do and have the capacity to do what you do is a gift from God. The other gift that God gives you, it says, look, there's some things I'm going to put on you. There's some things I'm going to give you. There's some things within purpose and time and destiny that you have, but I need you as you work along it to enjoy yourself. Take some time out, rest, relax, enjoy yourself. Take some time out, rest, relax, enjoy yourself. So that's the purpose of the Sabbath. The purpose of the Sabbath is not to be down working and working and working, but to be able to have some, not to be moving in 24/7 measures all the time, but to be able to work a little, do some things, plan this, go here, do that, and then come back and reflect, and then have some downtime to see the benefits of what you've been doing and reflect about it, share with others, interrelate with others, and share with yourself. Pull down your strongholds, fight the strong man that comes from without, and have some sense of peace of who you are, because God delights in giving you the gift to be able to profit by your labor, and say that within your labor you have the capacity to eat, drink, to celebrate what you do, who you are, and who's in your inner circle and outer circle as relationships. You must have a time to celebrate. You must have a time to rest. You must have a time to eat and drink. You must have a time, because it's God's gift. So now, let's bag up a little bit now, and let's take a look at Ecclesiastes. It talks about to everything there's a time and there's a season and there's a purpose. Now, so we begin to look at it, and there's seven statements that are beginning and ending. I call those juxtapositions. So 14 juxtapositions. Number one, a time to be born. That's a time. The purpose. What is the purpose? Now, for everything, there's a season, a time, and a purpose. So if you was in a given season, you was born. That season could have been a time frame within the year, like winter, spring, summer, fall. It could have been that season. It could have been a season of some things happening. Just like the writer said, in the year that King Uzziah died. Well, that was a season. It was a time frame. It could be a time frame to mark some changes in life, some changes in the culture, how people talk, how people saw things, how the culture was changing. But it was in that given season of what was going on that the time came for you to be born. Okay, so when you're born, what is your purpose? What is the process? What is your purpose? What is the purpose for you to be born? Based upon who you are, and based upon your name, based upon what house you grew up in. What is your purpose? What are you doing? How are you laboring? How are you working? What are you doing? How are you working it? Do you have some joy? Do you have some peace? Do you have a time to go your way, eat the fat and drink the sweet? Do you have some time to relax in your process? Because there's a time to be born and a time to die. So when the seasons change, and you in that season where it's a time, your timing to die is coming upon you, you have to be reflective and look back and say, okay, did I drink? Did I eat and drink? Did I celebrate? Was life, did I have some good times and some bad times? Or all of my good times were bad times? Huh? Or what did my good days outweigh my bad days? Or did my bad days outweigh my good days? And then you guys begin to reflect and say, have I profit? And so those of us, Erickson's Law of Development talks about those when they get to be 60 and 65, they start asking the question, what was my purpose? Do I matter? Did I matter? And they start looking at life from another angle now, because they have to answer that question. Who am I, based upon what I have done, based upon who have authenticated me by celebrating me in their lives, because I need to know, was my purpose fulfilled of being what I was in my connection and my relationship with you. So then, to everything, there's a season, a time, and a purpose. So for question for you that are watching us today, I ask you the question, what is your season? Do you know what season are you in right now? That's crucial to know. What season am I in? And then once I begin to really understand that in dialogue with myself and others, because you need others to confirm your seasons. It's been my experience that sometimes people, they want to be by themselves. They isolate. And so when you isolate and be by yourself, you cannot dialogue and talk with others and then to relate to others to have some confirmation to know when your season is. You have to be able to rub against people, talk with people, exchange information to be clear of your season. Because your season also has something to do with the right place and right time. And so God will connect us. He'll put us in situations and circumstances, and this will be our season to move, and we'll frustrate the season by not making the right choices of how we want to relate to each other. So once we understand that this is my season, then my new day is coming as I celebrate my season. So sometimes we're so busy thinking about certain things and the negative side of life that we don't look at how does the negative and the positive weigh in together to identify my season. So when I identify my season, I can walk therein. One of the things that's important as we get to do it is that sometimes when you don't understand your season and your timing, you get caught or stuck in what I call a revelation moment. God will probably give you a revelation or give you a prophetic word, speak into your life so strong, or you have an encounter with God so strong, you know he showed it to you. You know that's what's happening, and you can see it manifested and all of that, and then what happens? After all of that, you kind of miss it. But what happened? You don't continue because you still caught up in the old revelation. This is the way God showed it. This is the way we've been doing it, and it works for me. And so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just leave it alone. And so when you start going into those ideas, what you do is you magnify the revelation. Well, Brinson, I had a revelation. I had a revelation. Or I received a revelation. But you received it, but that's as far as you got. Well, once you understand that once revelation comes, we talked about you need illumination. And once you get some illumination of the revelation so you can better share it, you need some confirmation. Now, if you can get some confirmation from the people that challenge you to get some illumination from your revelation, now you're ready for the application. So now we can begin to work and apply our application. But then sometimes God is challenging us because he's an on-time God, and he continuously to work with us and in us. And so therefore the issue would be, how do I have ongoing information and revelation? I want to say this to you. I was at a retreat, and one of the apostles made this statement, and I wrote it down in my notes. She said, old revelation is nothing more than information. Old revelation is information. So when you get revelation, that's information that's going to be, if you don't make a change in that, sometimes we have to understand God gave us a revelation. He gave us a word about a month ago, 2 months ago, a year ago, and we have it. It is important. It's in our mindset, but we're not doing anything with it. But yet we keep talking about it. We keep talking about, this is what God showed me. This is what God showed me. So what happens? That revelation that you got, that now you just share with people, but don't activate a strategy to take it where it needs to go based upon you received it from God, it becomes nothing more than new information. I have a revelation to do this, and that. So you sit down with the people that be, and you put it together, and you make it happen. But then others, every time you see them, it's a big bag of wind. They're just going to talk, they're 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 going to talk. But they're not going to really activate. So they got a revelation, and it didn't even get to the first stage in a sense. It's got stuck between revelation and confirmation because now they have it in their minds, and then it's just information. Information. So if we're not careful, then old revelation is nothing more than information. Not new information, just information. So That's what we talk about when he said you can't put new wine in old bottles, lest the bottles break. You can't put old ways of doing things into new modalities and people that are new to certain things now. We try to get them to be believers and follow us as we follow Christ and the church from an old paradigm, and you have more energy to put out there because the term and the strategies that you're using are outdated when it comes down to marketing the gospel and winning souls for the kingdom. Hey, so if you are still around old revelation, this is the old way. We know what the Bible said, look for the old path. That's the doctrinal. That's the doctrinal. Those are basic principle issues. But sometimes we have to be careful because what we want to call basic principles, we become so rigid and we don't want to change how we do what we do. And that's so what happens is the substance of what's on the table and what's there gets lost because we're so preoccupied on this is how we do it, but we realize we don't have the same team to work with. The same team of how we do it is not there. So we can't do it like that. That we have to have new revelation. If God said, my mercies are new every morning, great is thy faithfulness, if he said that, then he believed that we ought to believe it. If he said that, he will supply all of our needs according to our riches and glory. We don't have to go back into some familiar territory in order to make sure our finances and all the other things are secure. We can stay right where we are and be ourselves and stand fast that whatever God is saying, and open our ears and eyes and see and hear and listen to what the Spirit is saying unto us as members of the body of the church, so we can grow into some new areas. So I submit to you that if you are not constantly on the fighting edge of revelation, God speaking to you, God confirming himself to you constantly. But if you are on that path where you ain't gone the whole week, you ain't heard nothing. You ain't gone the whole week, you haven't seen anything. You have gone the whole week and it's still draft. Well, what happened? That now is information. Brinson, blah, 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 blah. I know. Even certain people come give you a word, I know. But what's a confirming word for action? And so, remember that revelation is nothing more than information. So I need to know where you are. So as we begin to relate to each other in the body of Christ, then I need to know where you are, and don't bring to me any yesterday manifestations. You know, don't bring me yesterday's miracle. Some of us, we'll take a miracle and how God worked, how God used, how God fixed it, and we'll start looking for the same direction. We'll have an appetite to go in the same direction because it works for me and I'm not going to mess with it. So if it worked for me, it'll work for you, and don't you try to change it. So I think if we look at a biblical text about that, I think we'd be keeping up with with Moses. When the people came over in the water, they didn't have any water. Moses hit the rock. He hit the rock and said, come on, drink from the rock. So later on in the story, and when you read the book later on, it says that the people came back murmuring and complaining about no water. Now, I'm sure there was some people in the crowd, they probably, if it was in the day's world, they probably was been with part of the media or the paparazzi. They would have their cameras and everything pointing at the rock. Well, the people, this would be the announcement. Well, there's some people around the great prophet Moses and Aaron who left and got away from Egypt, but they're going to get them back. But right now, they're over there and there's no water. And so they hit the rock, and miraculously, the water came out. Wow, we got it on our news. We covered it. You remember last month. But now they're back in a state where they don't have any food like they need to have any food. And so they call on Moses and Aaron to come down to their village and say, look at us, we don't have no food. Everywhere we go, things are not right, but the water is bitter. not the water is bitter. We don't have any water. We need some water. So, I'm sure Moses thought about, well, the last time I hit that rock. Hallelujah, I'm a miracle worker. And I'm sure some of the people that was there that knew Moses will call Moses. He can do a miracle. See, he'll hit that big rock over there, and he'll hit that rock and water. I believe God that if he just touched that rock in my faith, in your faith, and if he could just hit the rock and get us some water, or just give us some water because we're frustrated. Moses go back and talk to God. God said, look, I don't want you to hit the rock. That's what people expect of you. I want you to speak to the rock. I want you to speak to the rock, and it shall happen. And not only do I want you to speak to the rock, I want you to understand and expect water to come out the rock after I speak to it. So now the children of Israel are gathered around Moses, and there's the rock, and I guess some of them are looking and saying, but where's his staff at? We don't see his staff. Now, y'all got a good shot. Now, when you get ready to hit that rock, I want you to take a picture, click him. I want you to take an Instagram, click him when you get ready to hit the rock. God said, no, I don't want you to hit the rock. I want you to speak to the rock. I want to upgrade the manifestation anointing of how I am portrayed through your ministry. I want the people that's in your ministry that came to visit you know that you just don't have no regular routine. Have you been to churches where, wow, no matter what Sunday it is or matter what's going on, that people still hold you to your yesterday? If you had a great accomplishment, if you do something real great, they always come back to you to want you to do something great, and you trying to tell them, but I did some study, but I found out some other things. I don't have to do it like this. And so because of the people pushing, you tend to go backwards and try to produce what you produced before, but the vantage point is different. God said, no, I want you to learn how to speak to the rock. So because you are a leader, and because you have some specialties in your life, I need you to speak to the rock. Speak to the rock. And Moses came out and he got upset. He let the people get on his nerve again and he hit the rock. Disobedience. So God says to Moses and to Joshua, high priest, since he didn't honor me before the people, he failed to honor me before the people, he should not go into the promised land. The benefits of the kingdom and what the kingdom has to offer is directly related to you honoring what God has to say about a situation when you find it in your life, your friend's life, your parents' life, whoever, because now we one big family. So what you have to begin to see is that sometimes God is trying to move you to a new dimension. He's trying to broaden your territory. You still stuck on how he used you last year. You still on what happened a couple of seasons and times ago. That's why we bring you back here to the writer of Ecclesiastes, who says, to everything there is a season. And everything there's a time for every purpose. And then he talks about the time to begin a thing and the time to end a thing. And then the writer lets you know that you will never be given the full definition. So God says, here, Brinson, this is what I want you to do. This is the time that I want you to start it. And this is the time I want you to end it. And these are the things that's going to go on in your ministry from the beginning to the end. The writer said God doesn't set that in the process. He rather sets us in a process for us to discover life and see it. But he never lets you see the end before you start the beginning. And so some of us, we don't like to begin because we want to see the middle. We want to see the end, the middle, how this going to work. If I come on board to do this, how would this look? And sometimes you need to just take a step in faith and say, look, I understand God's timing. I understand God's seasoning, and I understand the purpose that I have in my life. So if God has called me to purpose, and I have a particular purpose in my life to do this and do that, the only thing I need to do is seek him for the time frame of what I'm supposed to be doing because of my purpose. And in seeking him for the time frame of my purpose, pay attention as to what's going on in my life, what's going on in the community. What season is that? What season? Things have certain seasons. So what's going on? What's happening around me? When is the time for me to do what I need to do? We need to keep that in our minds. And we need to know that whatever God has for us, that we don't want to ever find ourselves in old revelation, which is only end up being information. But we want to know, God, what season and in what season, how do I fit into my time frames? And so until next time, we want you to continue to be blessed, to celebrate what God is doing, and be thankful for him in your life and ministry. Until next time, be blessed.